2023 was amazing, but it's now 2024, which means it's time to take a look at the list of upcoming Christian movies and TV shows in 2024. And I don't know about you guys, but having seen this list, I am so excited because we have such an amazing lineup this year, and you guys aren't going to want to miss a single one. Let's dive in. First on the list is The Chosen Season 4. This season is being marketed as the beginning of the end, where the stakes really start to rise and some of the storylines that ultimately lead to the death of Jesus Christ are established. Some of the things that happen in this newest season of The Chosen include the death of John the Baptist, the raising of Lazarus from the dead, and Judas beginning to turn against Jesus in his heart, all of it culminating in the triumphal entry at the end of this season. So it's going to be a lot going on. For those of you who are Chosen fans, it's really going to start getting intense in this latest season. It's going to be interesting to see everything that happens. Next up is Ordinary Angels. This is an inspirational movie about a former alcoholic who is trying to clean up her life and comes into contact with a poverty-stricken family desperately in need of her help. As their family is burdened with hundreds of thousands of dollars of financial debt, she partners with them and starts a public campaign to help them out of debt and find medical treatment for the father's sick daughter. The director of this film is John Gunn, who regularly works with the Erwin brothers on movies like Jesus Revolution and American Underdog, so we can expect this film to be very inspirational. I'm expecting it to have a very similar feel to some of the Erwin brother films, if you guys are familiar with how those films are. Then we have Cabrini. This film is being distributed by Angel Studios and is actually directed by the same director of Sound of Freedom. It centers on an Italian nun who immigrates to America and is blown away by the poverty and mistreatment of young children in New York's slums. She sets upon a mission of building a hospital and orphanage to provide humane treatment and housing for those in poverty. However, she faces many obstacles in the form of a sickness that threatens to take her life in several years and a mayor that has been doing everything possible to stop her actions. In the end, the film is a testament to what a woman with a mission can do when she sets her mind to something. Next up is Someone Like You. This is a truly unique storyline for a film in which, after a man faces the tragic death of his best friend, he finds that she actually had a twin sister who was conceived through vitro fertilization and birthed through a different couple. Finding her, he brings her to meet her biological family who is still suffering from the loss of one of their children. As time passes, they begin to bond with their newly found daughter that they've never met, which continues to bring them sorrow because of the reminder of their other daughter who is dead. And eventually, it results in a conflict of heart for the twin daughter who has to decide between her biological family or the family that's been raising her entire life. And from what I see in the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a really interesting mechanic where the main character ends up falling in love with the twin sister of his previously best friend. I think this is such a unique movie idea. I haven't seen a romance film like this before. Maybe there's been one and it's gone over my head because I don't watch a lot of romance films, but honestly, this one looks really cool and I'm very intrigued by it. Next, we have Unsung Hero. Unsung Hero is a story behind one of the most well-known musical families in Christian music, the Smallbone family. This film tells a story of their move to America and financial struggles until Rebecca Smallbone auditions for a music label, and the rest is history. As a huge For King and Country fan, I am excited for this movie. Honestly, I would watch a 2-hour movie just to hear the Smallbones talk in their Australian accent, because, I think it's cool. What's interesting about this film is that Joel, one half of For King and Country, is actually playing his own father, as this film is set when Joel and Luke were both young children. I think this film, from what I see, is more about Rebecca's musical career, but it definitely does make references to the one-day largest Christian pop duo in the world. Next up, we have The Forge. The Forge is the Kendrick brothers' 9th movie. This movie centers on a young man, Isaiah Wright, who is an average high schooler on the verge of graduation. With adulthood impending, he is challenged by the people around him, namely his mother and a local businessman, to grow into the mature man he was made to be. Through the struggles he faces and growing maturity, we see Isaiah transform into a better God-fearing man. This newest film brings back several key characters from previous Kendrick brother films, like Priscilla Shire, T.C. Stallings, and Karen Abercrombie, kind of creating a Kendrick cinematic universe of sorts. Honestly, this film is a good film for just the message that young people need to hear nowadays, but as far as entertainment value, it doesn't have much to draw me in as a viewer, and this is pretty typical of the Kendrick brothers to be more heavy-handed with the message material and focus on the message over the entertainment value. That's pretty much what you can expect from Kendrick brother films at this point, but for those of you who are fans of the Kendrick brothers and enjoy their films, you are very likely going to to enjoy this film. Then we have Bonhoeffer. Angel Studios recently picked up this project and is shaping up to be perhaps one of the most intense historical films in Christian film. The film centers on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a German pacifist who was a pastor when Adolf Hitler seized power in Germany. Torn between the cruelty of the Nazi regime and his own desire to preach and maintain peace, he is finally drawn into a plot to assassinate the Führer. The rest of the film is the intense struggle leading up to one of the most dangerous assassination attempts in the history of the world. What an interesting plot for a film. This really makes you think of the Tom Cruise film Valkyrie, which was released quite a while ago, and is such a complex theme for a film that I'm so curious to see what this film shapes out to be. Now for several projects that I don't have exact release dates for, but it's very likely that we're going to see them this year. And the first one is the Wingfeather Saga Season 2. This is the second season of the critically acclaimed animated fantasy series, as the first season covered the first book, On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness. What a name. The second season will cover around half of the second book, North or Be Eaten. This show has some of the most colorful and beautiful animated fantasy visuals I've ever seen in any genre, not just Christian, as it addresses moral themes from a very allegorical and Lord of the Rings-esque method. The world is unbelievably imaginative and the plot is truly intriguing, as it appears brightly and colorfully designed for kids on the surface, but over time becomes darker and darker, very similarly to Lord of the Rings. And speaking of Lord of the Rings, and the latest development, Billy Boyd, who played Pippin in the best movie trilogy of all time, there's no argument there, best movie trilogy of all time, is actually voice acting one of the main characters, Overseer, who is the villain in this next season. That is going to be so exciting to see Pippin as a powerful evil overlord. Can you imagine that? That's going to be amazing. And then we have Revelation Road, the TV show. Revelation Road is a movie series that's now being turned into a TV series set in the post-apocalyptic world surrounding Bible prophecy in the book of Revelation. Josh McManus, a traveling salesman, lives in a world that is dominated by criminals and roving motorcycle gangs. His fiery and fighting personality inevitably puts him into conflict with a gang lord named Ben, resulting in a showdown as Josh struggles to decide between his old ways and his new walk with God. David A.R. White has been for quite a while one of the few people in Christian entertainment trying to create compelling action movies or TV shows, and this show honestly really does give me vibes of films along the vein of like John Wick or Mad Max. The visuals from this trailer are honestly really stunning and compelling, but only time will tell if this show ends up better than the movies, because I haven't seen the movies, but I've heard that they were received with very, very mixed reviews. Now, typically this show would have been distributed through Pureflix, but what's delaying it is Pureflix is shifting over to more of a Hallmark-esque perky romance content platform, so David White has had to shift to finding a new distributor for his TV show. Right now he's trying to get it on Angel Studios, but if he's unsuccessful, that could delay the project even further, so it could still be a while before we see this release, but I'm really hoping we get some episodes by the end of the year. Next up, we have Tuttle Twins Season 3. This successful kids animated TV show is now receiving its third season. This educational show for kids chronicles the wild and zany adventures of Ethan, Emily, and Grandma, complete with a pet raccoon. It's not so much of a religious show as it is more focused on conservative political topics like inflation, deregulation, and equal pay, all while explaining them in layman's terms simple enough for children to understand. Now for a truly intriguing title, Homestead. This is Angel Studios' latest announcement, a series that is being described as The Last of Us meets Lost in Space meets SEAL Team. In a world that descends into chaos and post-apocalyptic conditions, a group of families flock to the homestead, an elaborate and massive compound built by a millionaire to withstand doomsday conditions. As the families are forced to pull closely together and protect themselves from the outside world, immediate conflict eventually turns into cooperation as the families work together for survival. I'm intrigued by this. I haven't seen enough to make a decision on whether I like it or not, but a Christian post-apocalyptic TV show, look, throw some action in there, a couple I'm just kidding. I don't think they're gonna have zombies in this TV show, but hey, that would get my attention. It's gonna be interesting to see what this turns into. It has Neil McDonough in it. Again, he's been in quite a few Christian films at this point. Interesting. Let's see what it turns into. Then we have The Unbreakable Boy. This film was announced quite a while ago, and it's been delayed for several years. I'm not even sure why. I assume it's seeking a distributor. It's once again slated for release soon, later this year, but it could end up being delayed yet again. The premise of this film is it centers on a young boy named Austin who struggles with autism and a bone disorder that makes his body prone to easy injury and broken bones. As the father, played by Zachary Levi, and his wife struggle to raise their son, they amazingly learn from Austin's overwhelmingly optimistic outlook on life and discover the joys of raising their son through hardship. Honestly, just from watching the trailer of this film, just seeing Austin, he's like one of the most likable characters I think I've ever seen in Christian film, and the trailer alone was able to depict his mannerisms in such a realistic manner. Honestly, it looks really interesting. Now, for an overtly political film, we have Reagan. Reagan is a biopic centering on one of the most beloved conservative presidents in US history, Ronald Reagan. This movie covers the life of Reagan from childhood to Hollywood star to one day having the top job in the United States of America. Ronald Reagan is being depicted by Dennis Quaid, which honestly, that's gonna be very, very interesting. Honestly, I would watch this film just to see Dennis Quaid play president. So I'm looking forward to that. Now to cover several films that are in the pipeline or there's been some buzz about recently, but we're probably not going to see a release this year, although we'll likely get more news. And the first of those is Passion of the Christ Resurrection Part 1. This film has been teased and talked about again and again. From what I've heard, very likely, as I'm speaking right now, this film is probably being shot. So that means likely by the end of the year, we'll actually get some visuals, probably a trailer, some material on this, as it's slated for a 2025 release for the first half of this film, which means that we're very likely going to see some form of visuals or a trailer of some sort by the end of the year, as the first half of this movie is slated for a 2025 release. And again, stay tuned to this channel so I can let you guys know when I hear more about this film. And then for something that I talked about last year, we didn't get any news on, but again, it's continued to be talked about, is Netflix's adaptation of Chronicles of Narnia. For those of you who don't know, Netflix bought the rights to turn the Chronicles of Narnia into a movie or a TV show. And apparently they've hired Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie, to be the director of these Chronicles of Narnia movies that are in the pipeline. So they're hiring people. I just don't know how close we are. We're hearing a little bit more now. Hopefully, I'm genuinely hoping we get something concrete by the end of the year, because it's going to be interesting to see if Netflix is able to pull off something like Chronicles of Narnia. Then we have Gabriel and the Guardians, one of the latest announcements by Angel Studios. This anime TV series is still in crowdfunding. It's raised about $550,000 so far, and it truly looks intriguing, as it would be one of the first faith-based anime TV series that I've ever heard of. It centers on Old Testament scriptures, particularly in Genesis, bringing to life angelic characters like Gabriel to depict the spiritual warfare between light and dark in a truly colorful and artistic way. Even if it does complete funding this year, it's highly unlikely we see any episodes released until 2025 at the earliest. And then of course we have David, the animated movie. Although it's been under development for years, David is still far from complete. Leading up into 2024, this project crowdfunded over $50 million, meaning it's going to have a massive scope. Despite this project going viral on the internet, amassing millions of views and raising millions of dollars, it's still far from complete, and we're not going to see a full release until 2025, but we probably will see a trailer of some sort by the end of the year. And now for the last one on the list, and I kind of saved this one for last because it's really interesting and intriguing at the same time. This is a project that's being done in a sort of collaboration between Amazon MGM Studios and the Wonder Project. Amazon has, in the last year or so, shown more of an interest in faith-based projects. Last year, they actually came out with On a Wing and a Prayer, which went on to garner very mixed feedback. However, they seem to be wanting to push forward by collaborating with the Wonder Project, which is actually a collaboration between several key Christian filmmakers like John Irwin of Jesus Revolution and Dallas Jenkins of The Chosen. So they want to work together with want them to create a TV series outlining the life of David. So this is going to be really interesting. If it's done by Amazon, that means it's going to have a substantial budget. It's going to have substantial production quality. Amazon was kind of unsuccessful in his first film on A Wing and a Prayer. It wasn't anything to rave over, but we're talking about some huge veterans here if John Irwin and Dallas Jenkins get involved with this project. So we got very little on this. It's more of just an announcement that they're collaborating, which means we're probably years out from anything, but it's exciting nonetheless. Anyway, that is my list of what's coming out in 2024. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the list. As you can tell, it is a whole lot. This is probably the most I've ever had to talk about in one of these videos, and that's a good problem to have. It took me a long time writing all these notes because there was just so much material. So if you guys enjoyed this video, you need to hit the subscribe button because I put so much hard work into these videos. And if you subscribe, you can stay in the loop for when I talk about other Christian movies and video games if you're a Christian gamer. So tell me in the comments below what you think. As a Christ follower, I've made the resolution to take every opportunity possible to share my faith with the world. If you've never given your life to Christ, I'd love to share with you how Christ has transformed the man that I've become. I've attached my email onto this video where you can shoot me a quick email, and I'd love to have that conversation. Or if you're a Christian struggling with your faith or just looking for ways to grow closer to God, I'd love to have that conversation with you. With that, you guys have an awesome day. God bless.